Okay, I'll get closer. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our program tonight. Thank you. I'm Roger Campbell, board member of the Laguna Beach Historical Society. It's great to have everyone here. Thank you, Matthew Papish, wherever you are in the back, for the fine local history video that he showed. As many of you know, this is an amazing panel of renowned surfers from different periods who first distinguished themselves in the Brook Street Surfing Classic that began 70 years ago in 1955, the oldest running surf contest in the world. Many also made their mark internationally after beginning in this tournament. The 58th annual Classic just took place September 27th through 28th, 2025. Yes, there were 12 years in the long 7-year history without a decent weekend summer swell, but I think we even have a few participants here in this most recent contest. This year's results are posted on the city's website, including my neighbor, and I think his father is here, John Jackson Herming, who placed third in the junior men's division, won a really nice green fin trophy. Nice job, Jackson. Understand he and his high school surf team, including Brooks on our panel.
Technical difficulties.
I'm saying, under Coach Alisa, also on our panel, take on San Clemente High tomorrow morning at T Street. Wish the team the very best. I would also like to recognize Terry Doran, who is here tonight. She is with the city's rec department and has assisted the past few years with Brook Street. The city has helped run the tourney since '55, including Ron Lutz, some or many of you may remember him, who ran the contest. Yeah, here's for Ron. He ran the contest as a city employee for prior decades before Brandy, as Ron, also Laguna's High second all-time basketball scoring leader, and he scored all his points without the benefit of the three-point shot. Said, quote, "Of all the things I did for the city, Brook Street was the most positive event." We start with our moderator, Brandy Faber, my bad, Brook Street's director since '93, nearly half the length of this tourney. Wow, Brandy. And looking at Brandy, I swear he must have started running the tournament at the age of 2. Brandy finished 4th in this year's Grand Masters division. He's also won this event 3 times in 1990, 2004, and 2014. All of this tricky when he's also the contest director. How do you pull that off? Thank you, Brandy, for your love of history, which we spoke about years ago, and this tourney, which you will begin by talking about Brook Street's origins, which Dick knows a little about as well. He will also discuss notable awards and the artistry that are big parts of the tournament. And on October 14th, 2025, earlier this week, Brandy accepted a city proclamation recognizing 70 years of the Brook Street Surfing Classic, stating, quote, Brandy said, "It's an honor to be part of such a rich and amazing tradition, and I'm very grateful and appreciative to see the city and community come together year after year to keep the Stoke alive since 1955. Then we have Dick Metz. He will speak about the early tourney days when he lived at Brook Street at Gaviota, surfed there daily, and as a young lad had the energy to tend the bar later at the Sandpiper." Right, Dick? Dick is also...
Before he was born.
Before he was born.
Before Chuck was born?
Before Chuck was born.
I won't tell.
Dick is a poster photographer for the first 1955 Brook Street event, and may tell us about those individuals, early surfers in it, including winners Hobie Alter and Larry Brixey in 2 different competitions. As many of you know, Dick is a surf industry pioneer, owner-operator, Moby Surf Shops, star of the Birth of the Endless Summer documentary. Thank you, Dick.
Yeah, Dick.
Our next panelist is Ron Sizemore, who did not place in his first junior division years, 1959 and 60, in Brook Street, but legendary Laguna High coach Red Geyer, whom the football field is named after, saw Ron's talent and moved him up to the higher division the following year. That next year, 1961, Ron won. And again, a couple years later, nice job, Ron. And a couple years later, in a tie with Mickey Munoz in a very unique year, which Ron will explain. Ron also, and And Ron also won the 1961 Men's U.S. Surfing Championship, a 20-time winner of the Brook Street Surfing Classic. And thank you, Ron. He is a Vietnam veteran. Thank you for your service, Ron. And I should say, he served in Vietnam during his tour and can tell us about that experience and the ocean's healing effects. He also won in non-surfing Brook Street competitions. I think some of his friends are here that were in those, like paddleboarding, body surfing, and even the pie eating contest. Impressive. A couple times. What was the pie?
I'll talk about that.
Yeah, tell us about the pie. Next, we have Alisa Schwarzstein-Cairns, who first began surfing at age 9 and became world amateur champion at 15. Alisa first entered the Brook Street tourney in 1977, winning that year, helping launch her career and love for surfing and competing. Alisa was awarded the Side Chambers Award in '78. Soon she would be away from Laguna. In 1980, she was the women's world amateur surfing champion. Wow. In 1984, amazing, Alisa was the Association of Surfing Professionals Rookie of the Year. In 1986, and was ranked 4th in the world on the Association of Surfing Professionals. She came back and won again in 86 and 87. Alisa also won, amazing, the Super Heat, made of all the winners, all guys, she competed against, continuing to win more events in the 2000s. Great job in the Super Heat. She was also honored as the Surfing Walk of Fame 2012 Woman of the Year. Alisa is an 18-time winner of the Brook Street Surfing Classic and the current LBHS surf coach. Finally, in a little known fact, Alisa revealed that she was the first girl to play Laguna Little League Baseball in 1977. Hear, hear. And then we welcome Jeff Booth, World Amateur Surfing Championships, 2-time runner-up, 1988's Associated Surfing Professionals Rookie of the Year, 1990 Pipe Masters runner-up, and a finalist multiple times there. Ranked 4th in the world on the Association of Surfing Professionals in 1995, and ranked in the top 10 in the world on the Association of Surfing Professionals 1994 through 1996. He just played 3rd in this year's Grand Masters division of the Brook Street Surfing Contest, and he first entered the contest in 1980, winning the minis that year. He has subsequently won most every division 17 times, including the pro final, through 40 plus years of participation. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff has won the Side Chambers Award twice. During his time on the World Tour for 9 years, he was featured on several covers of Surfer and Surfing. And in a little known fact, Jeff donated his $10,000 from championship winnings there back to Costa Ricans to start their own competitive tour and develop local talent, with great results over the years. As a result, Costa Ricans have been on the World Tour and made Olympics appearances. Wow, thank you. Finally, we have Brooks Carter, a Laguna Beach High sophomore. He finished 2nd in the boys division in 2022. He was awarded the Side Chambers Award that same year. Brooks is a 2-sport athlete. As a member of the LBHS football team, wide receiver quarterback, and the LBHS surf team. It's not unusual during the fall season for him to surf competitive early morning and then play football later the same day for the LBHS teams. Nice combining the jarheads and the surfers. I love that. That's great. He has also participated in other surfing competitions, including the Laguna Beach Board Riders Club and WSA, Western Surfing Association. Brooks' dad won the Side Chambers in 1986 too. And his granddad is the highly respected federal judge, David Carter, and Marine, who also served valiantly in Vietnam. The Side Chambers and Tom Chambers Awards honor youth surfers for good sportsmanship / academics and for talent in the arts, respectively, which Brandy will go into more. Before going into tonight's presentation, I'm getting almost time. Before going into tonight's special presentation, I also want to briefly announce a couple future presentations. February 23rd 2026, the oldest continuous running theater west of the Mississippi, the Laguna Playhouse, that opened in 1920. And on April 21st, 2026, Gabby Cravath, Major League Baseball's home run leader in the dead ball era before Babe Ruth, who later became Laguna's local magistrate judge, and over several decades doing that, had numerous dealings with Laguna characters like early surfer and waterman Peanuts Larson. And please see Craig Lockwood's fine book on him called Peanuts. I'm not talking about the way it was, just the way it's never going to be again. Finally, in the fall next year, we may have 1 to 2 local architectural history presentations. I would also like to thank in the back Adrian Henson, our professional videographer, photographer, and composer, who has worked on a variety of different film projects and continues to do so. It's important that we professionally videotape this presentation, as the mission of the Historical Society is to collect, preserve, and disseminate Laguna Beach history of its people, events like tonight, organizations, and places. And just think, 30 years from now, for the centennial, this video will be very helpful for those preparers. For those seeking more information about the Historical Society of Laguna History, please go to info.lagunabeachhistory.org, info.lagunabeachhistory.org. We also invite you to join our society. Sign up tonight here in the back by the door. Please see Scott Sumner and his team. Thank you, Scott. Or in the membership pack that's on your seats. Your membership and or small donation helps defray the cost for these presentations. A high school essay scholarship that we give out based on some wonderful student history essays. Elementary school visits to the bungalow, and literally just to keep our lights on. Plus, for coming tonight, you will be eligible by filling out the ticket on your seat and placing it in the bowl near Scott in the raffle at 8:30 or so for signed posters of tonight's event and LB Historical Society books and keepsakes. Feel free to drop by the bungalow if you like, take in some local history, maybe a tour. It's open on Ocean Avenue between Wells Fargo and Whole Foods from 1 to 4 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And for our valued members of the Historical Society, Equator Coffee is conveniently located next to the Rivian, continues to offer a discount, 10% discount on your favorite beverages, excluding mugs and coffee beans. Our thanks to Equator Coffees for their partnership and providing a wonderful, no pun, perk for members to enjoy. Now, last sentence. Now, please silence your phones. Enjoy the presentation and the Q&A led by Butte board member Scott. And join me in giving a big welcome to our moderator, Brandy, who's done a heck of a lot of work for us, and our distinguished panel.
Thank you, Roger. We'll give you a couple passes. I know you spilled coffee on your notes there.
Yeah, I did. That's me through.
All right, well, welcome and thank you, everyone, for attending. We got a great evening. I first want to say thanks to the city for supporting the contest for 70 years. And when I say support, it's only run 58, so there was 12 years where the contest didn't run, but they still supported it during those years. So, we got to really give a lot of thanks to our city here for making this contest happen. Thank you, Tierney, she's back there, our current rec department supervisor. Is that your? Yes, perfect. Thanks to Laguna Beach Historical Society for providing tonight's program. Thanks to Susie Q Community Center for providing the venue. And of course, I want to thank all the panelists for sharing their time and their stories tonight. We're going to jump right into it. I'm going to try to fill you guys in on some, little bit of things associated with the contest that will help when the panelists start talking. So that's me. I'm the moderator. I do run the surf contest and compete in it at the same time, which is very difficult. Asked my wife last year. Afterwards, we had to go down to the hydration room and get some IVs and rehydrate after about 48 hours of, as we say, no sleep till Brook Street. I've been the contest director since 1993, and the way I got involved is one year I got second to Jeff, which most of us in the room have probably gotten second to Jeff. And that was in 1988 and 89. And I was so stoked because we got these bags of prizes from all the local, I was too young, Chuck, so I didn't get anything from the Sandpiper, but all the restaurants and shops and everything. And I remember getting this $100 gift certificate to Javier's, who was in town at that time. And I'm like, what, $100 to Javier's? I'm like having a big night. And it was awesome. And the next year, Jeff went out on tour and I won. But I didn't get anything except for like a little AYSO kind of door stopper type of trophy. And I was so bummed. I'm like, where's all the goodies? Where's the Javier's gift certificates? And I went down and saw Mr. Ron Lutz here. And if you guys know Ron, he was the rec supervisor for the city for 40 years.
Wow.
And I was managing Laguna Serpent Sport at the time, and I went in, I go, Ron, what's up? How come there's no prizes? And he's like, well, there's a new rule. City employees can't go out and solicit businesses or anything. I don't know if I have this correct, but I think it's called the Levine Act, pay to play, where it's kind of seen as bribery if a city official would go and ask for things, even if it was going to the surf contest. And I said, well, Ron, I manage the surf shop, and at that time, probably all the CEOs were living in Laguna Beach, and I said, can we contribute from the private sector? And he said, absolutely, go do it. So that was sort of the partnership with Ron and I. And here you see Penny Steris. She was a private citizen. She was a volunteer back at that time. And it's always been a collaboration going back to the inception with Obie and Red Geyer and the city and the community. So that's a really special part about the contest itself. Now, Ron was not a surfer. But as Roger alluded to, he loved the Brook Street contest. You know, this clipping here of the newspaper, and I've just learned, maybe up until recently, right, Roger? Yeah. He was the highest, like the best all-time scorer of the basketball team for Laguna Beach High School. Had almost 1,500 points over his 4-year period. So he was an amazing basketball player, but didn't know exactly always how to run a surf contest. As you'll see, the guys were wearing basketball jerseys. So nowadays, if you guys have been to the surf contest, people are color, you know, red vest, blue vest, yellow. You know, you can see Chris Morrow right here, number 6, and this is probably Stafford or I don't know, some of the guys. But can you imagine trying to judge and going, okay, number 6 has an 8, number 20 has a 4, and it would have been really challenging back in those days. So we got some new contest jerseys when I got involved. Back then it was pre-internet, pre-surf forecasting, and if you look at this sign right here on the telephone pole, Ron Lutz used to drive down to the beach every weekend on Saturday and Sunday at 6:30 in the morning and do an eye test, as we say. And he would say, no contest. And he'd put his phone number there. Can you imagine putting your phone number? I would never do that nowadays. So he'd put his phone number there, check back in at 10 o'clock, and that's how the contest went for a long time. This photo is in 1982. And if you see this easel here, this is in 1986. We still use that easel today for the contest. It's pretty amazing. So a lot of times we get asked about the history of the Brooks and is it or is it not the oldest surf contest in the world? Well, there's 2 other, I guess, contenders. One on the left is the Bells Beach. It used to be called the Easter Rally. Now it's called the Rip Curl Pro Bells Beach. It started in 1962. They took off the year for COVID, and they are at 62 years. So technically, they have run more times than the Brook Street, but they did not start when the Brook Street did. And the ECSC, which is the East Coast Surfing Championship, started in New York in 1962. Following year, it moved to Virginia Beach, where it still takes place. They did not skip COVID, which I don't know if I mentioned. Bells skipped COVID, ECSC did not. And so they are on their 63rd running. A couple things about Bells, if you guys have been down to that area in Australia, there's a lot of different breaks there, and they can go mobile. So it's a lot easier for them to run their contest. DCSC is at a beach break and they have a 5-day contest window and they can, kind of work around tides and things like that. Where Brook Street, even though we have a long waiting period from June to October, as you can see over the years, Brook Street on, Brook Street off, Brook Street put on hold, small waves. So for our event, city run, we have to have waves that, and as it's gotten bigger, we have about 150 to 175 inches depending on the swell and the time of the year. We need 2 full days to run the contest, and it has to hit on a weekend. And so, Brook Street's tide sensitive, it's swell direction sensitive, so sometimes it doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened for 12 years. And so, you can see it seems to be a theme that it's more later in the 2000s. There's been no surf. 2 years of COVID, we took off. However, if you ask ChatGPT what the oldest surf contest in the world is, the Brook Street Surfing Classic in Laguna Beach, California is widely recognized as the world's oldest running surf contest. Began in 1955, founded by local surf pioneer Hobie Alter and others from the Laguna Beach surf community like Dick Metz. What makes it unique is that it's a local-only, wave-dependent event, meaning it's only held when Brook Street gets a solid south swell. Despite the irregular schedule, it has remained the same community-driven contest for 70 years, earning its reputation as the oldest ongoing surf competition on the planet. So, I thought that was pretty cool that ChatGPT knew that, because they scour the world for all.
Did you write that?
I did not write that. ChatGPT wrote that. So anyways, it's a rite of passage for everyone that grew up in the city, as a lot of you guys that are in the room know. We even had our former mayor, Kelly Boyd, used to compete in the contest. He won the junior men's in the 3rd annual in 1957. He got first place in the senior skid board. That's not a typo. They called it the skid board back in those days, before it became the skim board. And then over here we have our current Marine Safety Chief, Kai Bond, getting 3rd place in the boys at the 34th annual, 1988 and 1989. We'll cover that later. Talking to Jeff Booth, who got first that year. So great, that we have a lot of people in city and everything involved in the contest. The Brook Street, if you guys remember earlier, it wasn't the prettiest end of the street. Kind of cinder block place with 2 OCT bus benches. And it was the penalty box. I like that. But it was one of the first beautification projects that the city did, and they did it with the contest in mind. And in fact, when it was getting drawn up, I met with Morris Skandarian, the artist, and the theory is he's going to design stadium-style seating that looks out at Second Reef Brook Street, which you can see here. They built this platform here for the judging tower, and then down here is what they call the pump house, and it's got storage in there where we can keep everything for the contest. So really cool the city to do that and keep that in mind. And then of course we are an art community, so artist Marlo Bartels. Ceramic mural, these tiles here on the back of the stadium style seating, is titled Third Reef, which was inspired by the contest or the surf break. From there, we're going to cover a couple special awards. Many of these panelists have won. Cy Chambers, who's on the left over here, he passed in 1969 at the very young age of 15. He was a member of the first graduating class at Thurston Middle School in 1968. Dave, you probably remember him, Dave Hagan. And served as the school's first student body president. In 1969, the first Cy Chambers Memorial was awarded to Bill Brown at the 15th annual Brook Street Surfing Classic. Each year, the Cy Chambers is awarded to a young entrant of the contest who displays excellence in surfing, sportsmanship, and academics. An oil painting of Cy hung in the Thurston front office for over a decade in remembrance. And if that's not hard enough, imagine losing another brother, Tom Chambers. So there's 3 Chamber brothers. They lost 2 of them. So if losing one family member isn't hard enough, imagine the devastation of losing 2 members who also happen to be brothers. Si's younger brother Tom passed away at 33 years young in 1991. Tom graduated from Laguna Beach High School in 1994, and as a senior at the high school, Tom won local fame for his ceramics artistry and began teaching ceramics at UCI before he graduated from LBHS. At the time of his passing, he was the art director at Quicksilver. The Tom Chambers Memorial Award was first awarded in 1992 to Stephen Slydog Chu, who many of you know, and he did one of the t-shirt designs you're going to see later. That was at the 37th annual Brook Street Surfing Classic. Each year since that time, Tom Chambers is awarded to a young entrant who displays excellence in both surfing and the arts. And finally, we have Jack Denny here in the middle. And Jack was a great surfer, an artist, and a businessman who was a designer for Gotcha, which at the heyday in Laguna was a big deal, before he went on to start his own clothing brand, World Jungle. He had a profound impact on the Laguna surf community during his short lifetime, and he is greatly missed by all who knew him. Shortly after Jack's passing, the annual Brook Street Surfing Classic was dedicated in the honor at the 46th annual Brook Street Surfing Classic in 1992. So if you see the t-shirts later, it'll say in loving memory of Jack Denny. His ashes were scattered at Rock Pile, September 15, 1998. So, you'll hear about, I wanted to tie that in because some of these panelists won, the side chambers, actually 3 of the 5. And I thought it was important to put that backstory there. Now, before we jump into the panelists here, Dick's going to get into detail, but the story that I've always heard of how the contest came to be is surfers in the 1950s, 55, when the contest happened, were sort of seen as ruffians and degenerates. And yes, Dick's going to really put some color on that for us. And Hobie Alter's family lived to the right of the Oak Street deck, and Hobie was making surfboards out of his family's garage. And it seemed like he had a vision that surfing could become bigger than just sort of a weekend fun type of party event. And he wanted to change surfing's image and went on to the city to start the surf contest with Red Geyer. And Dick's going to tell some great stories about Red Geyer. And I did not know them until Dick informed me. We all went to the high school and see Geyer Field, so it'd be great to hear a little bit more about Red Geyer. So, without further ado, this is an old photo. At the time, the oceanfront homeowners, basically said they owned the land all the way down to the mean high tide line. So that was kind of the scene. I guess you had to have a license on your surfboard at that time in order to surf. And so now we're going to start off with Dick. And this is Dick. Let us know what year this is, but this is Dick riding a second reefer at Brook Street in the 50s. So Dick, take it away.
Well, I think the first thing that you young people here should know is that surfing, up until the war, the Second World War, there probably wasn't 100 surfers in the United States, not including Hawaii. And because of that, the reason there was no surfers is because the boards weighed 100 pounds. They had no skeg or fin. We didn't have a wetsuit. The water's cold. I used to leave my redwood on the beach and nobody wanted to steal it because they couldn't carry it and nobody wanted it anyway. So surfing really didn't get started in Laguna or anyplace else until really after the war. I mean, there were surfers, Heads and Peanuts, and I surfed in the 30s, but it wasn't surfing like it is today. Without a fin, a 100-pound board, and round rails, you really couldn't surf anything but the whitewater. So it was a whole different game. During the war, England invented fiberglass and resin, and that changed everything. All those boards you've been seeing are balsa boards. And up until then, they were made out of redwood and heavy. And so with fiberglass came along, we could make it totally out of balsa wood. It changed the weight from roughly 80 to 120 pounds to 30 to 40 pounds. So all of a sudden, after the war in the early 50s, girls started surfing, young kids could surf, and you could put your board in a car and check the surf up and down the coast. So it changed everything. So that's when it really started. Hobie grew up in Ontario, California. His dad bought a summer home on Gaviota and Oak Street, and Hobie didn't surf at first, but I knew him. See, we didn't have, I can go way back, I don't want to bore you, but Orange Coast wasn't started, and so a lot of Laguna guys, including myself, Hedges, a bunch of guys ahead of me in school, went to Chaffey College in Ontario. Hobie went to Chaffey High School. I was 5 years older than Hobie, so when I was a freshman in college, he was a freshman in high school. And we used the same track and football field. So I was playing football, and Hobie was out there hanging around, and I met him early on, and he later then came to Laguna to see stay with his dad. So in the summer, he started making boards in his garage, first to himself. The first one he made was not very good. I have it in the museum, but it's not that. It's been cut up a little bit. So he didn't like it. He made the second board, and he liked that and started to learn to surf. So Hobie was way more mature, even though I was older. He was way more mature than the rest of us. We were having fun. Hobie got married to Sharon, a Laguna girl, right away. And I don't know if Jeff Alder's here, but do I see him back there, Mark? I don't know. Anyway, he had 3 kids, so he had to go to work. We didn't have any kids. We weren't married. We were just having fun. So Hobie had to get serious about the thing, which he did. He was always serious, and he was an amazing, inventive, creative kind of a guy. So he made, we went over this 1,000 times. Hobie and I were partners and good buddies. He made about 88 boards in his dad's garage over a couple of summers. And then his dad realized, fortunately, that Hobie had a talent, and he went down to Dana Point, which was not a town. There was no post office. There was no fire. There was no police. There was nothing there but the Arco station, the Dana Villa, and maybe 3 or 4 houses. I mean, absolutely nothing. So we first learned from the Laguna guys, there was a police department. Cops would come in, and most of the time you knew them in those days. They'd flash the light around and say, "Oh, Jake, Dick, okay, cool it down. We won't bust you now." So we all moved to Dana Point eventually because there was no police, and we had a lot more fun down there than we did in Laguna. But Hobie stayed in Laguna and raised his kids here and was a brilliant designer with no training in school. He didn't go to college. He went to a couple of months to junior college and gave that up. So Hobie, early on, we as surfers then had a bad reputation. People, the public, didn't really know what surfers were. They kind of looked at surfers as like Hell's Angels are looked at now. And we were hustling the girls and drinking too much and having way too much fun. And so Hobie thought it was really important to turn the surf community into a real sport and have it accepted by the public at large. And so he was instrumental in making the first contest. And I'm sure all of you in here have seen the Endless Summer movie. And when Bruce Brown took Robert Henson, Mike Henson, and Robert August, they all wore coat and ties. That was all Hobie's doing. He wanted to raise the standard of living and the public's appearance of surfers. And that was all started in the contest. So Hez McClellan, myself, Hobie, we started different surf associations, get kind of rules and started. So that's basically how it started. I could talk all day, but I don't want to bore you.
Okay, well, thank you. Dick, now, when we were talking the other day, you gave me some really good stories about Red Geyer, who he was in the track world, and how he got involved in the contest. He was the rec supervisor for the city at that time in 1955, and Hobie went down to meet with Red and wanted to have the surf contest, as Dick said, to sort of elevate surfers as athletes and respectable parts of the community. So tell us about Red and those stories you told me the other day.
My mom was a 6th grade teacher on Park Avenue Grammar School, and when Red got hired, he had gone to USC. He ran in the 1932 LA Olympic Games.
Wow.
He was a sprinter, ran the 100-yard dash.
Wow.
I don't think he got a medal. I think he got 3rd or 4th. But he was hired by Laguna to be the football and the track coach. And he was really a neat guy. And I think we were in the 4th grade at the time. And he decided one day he was going to we had been running little relays, and there's so many stories I can't tell them all. But
Tell him how he's a track starter.
well, what happened is he ran the 100, and so in the track meets in Laguna, he became the starter. And as he was so good at it, that he was hired throughout the United States to go to the big national college meets and be the official starter. So he was known throughout the country as one of the great starters. And he would always, the Laguna track meets, we had an invitational, and he'd always start those. Oh, thank you. So Red was a great guy, and he was so white-skinned and red-haired. He was afraid to go to the beach. But we got him down there, and because everybody really respected him, he came down and did the judging and was the starter. Of course, that's what his expertise was, the starter of the first contest. I took those, this picture, there's 3 of them that I took myself that day. And you can see Red had the biggest hat on, and he covered himself up as best he could. He was afraid of the sun. But a good guy and a great leader, and we all had the utmost respect for him.
And so here's one of the iconic photos that Dick took that day, and it's Red Geyer starting the paddle race. And you can see on the bottom, left to right, Dave Whitecon. Dave's here tonight. And then, give Dave a round of applause. And I would love to follow up on this later, but I always heard the story that Dave was named Mr. Brook Street, and that he caught, I might embellish, but go with it because history's fuzzy, right? I heard he caught 24 second reefers in a day, and in the day when they didn't wear wetsuits. Can you imagine? So, thank you, Dave. Next to him, Bing Boca. Bing Boca's here too. Guys from the very first contest. Johnny Hoekstra is next. He's this guy right here in the white shorts. Next to him.
That's Tom.
Oh, sorry. Johnny's in the yellow. Morey is in the white. Tom Morey, come on. The guy who invented Morey Boogie Board, Morey Doyle. Hobie right here in the red shorts. This is Rennie Yater. I don't know much about Rennie's time in Laguna, but what I do know is I guess he shaped for Hobie during this era, and then he moved to Santa Barbara. And if you guys are fans of Apocalypse Now, there's a scene where Captain Kilgore is on the beach there and he says, "Get my Yater 8-foot spoon." Well, that's Yater, right? Go ahead.
Well, you were good on Yater, except Rennie didn't shape for Hobie.
Oh.
Hobie shaped at that time. And Rennie got mad and went down and shaped for Velzy. And Hobie had him glassing, and he didn't want to be a glasser. And Rennie I had gone to Santa Barbara to college and surfed Rincon, and so I got him to come up one day. And so Rennie moved to Santa Barbara, but he worked for Hobie glassing, but not shaping.
Okay. Well, thank you for setting the record straight, Dick. No, we do appreciate that. That's why we're doing this tonight. We're getting these stories passed down correctly. We don't know who this gentleman is, but I was told tonight that Donnie Crevier would know. So we're going to ask Donnie Crevier. I don't know if Crevier's here, but the man in the red board. The last guy down here at the end is Larry Brixey, who won the first Brook Street surfing division. He beat Hobie, but Hobie won the paddle race. And I'm not positive, Dick, maybe you could fill us in on this. I heard the guys cared more about winning the paddle race back then than they did the surf contest. Is that true?
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, certainly paddling was a big deal then. And, you know, Hobie's board and Reddy's board were both really narrow in the hips, and better for paddling, not so good for turning a surfboard. So they were into paddling. Well, I don't know if they surfed on that same board or not, but those are definitely paddling boards more than surfboards.
Yeah, and we asked Bing and Wycon before we started tonight, and they said these were just boards they paddled on. You guys did not compete in those in the surf contest, right, Bing? Okay. And then we have Red Guy in the hat here. And, you know, back then, if you look, this is the very first heat sheet from 1955. And it's, in my opinion, kind of like surfing's Declaration of Independence. The forefathers. You know, if you look up here, the judge was Walter Hoffman. If you guys know the Hoffman family and Hoffman Fabrics, you know, they became the biggest fabric supplier to the surf industry. He's a judge. Phil Edwards, he was considered the best surfer in the world at that time. He was a judge. And as we mentioned, Hobie, you know, he started essentially the surfboard industry in many ways. And Dick Metz here, who, you know, helped Hobie do that and start the retail, you know, multiple Hobie stores across the country that we know. Tom Morey and many others. So this is a really phenomenal piece of history that we have here. And maybe Ron Sizemore, when we get to you, you can answer this, because I asked Dick. It says the Laguna Beach Surfing and Paddling Tournament. At what point did it become the Brook Street Surfing Classic? That'll be a question we need to answer if anyone in the audience knows. And so, Dick, you came to the contest this year. You know, the 58th running. Did you ever imagine the contest would still be happening 70 years later after it started?
Well, I would hope that it last that long, but I couldn't believe it was in October. I mean, we used to, Brook Street always broke second reef 4th of July weekend. It was just kind of an automatic 4th of July was when it got the biggest. And that's usually when the Brook Street contest was. So to have it this year in October was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it, but I'm glad I was here.
Well, to that note, nowadays the contest has gotten a lot bigger, the city's gotten bigger. We're not allowed to run on holiday weekends. So it won't be happening on the 4th anytime soon. But back in the days, the contest was much smaller. I think there was like 34 people. As you can see in this article here from the first contest, this ran in July 31st, 1955 in the South Coast News. And this is a trophy. I don't know if this is the original trophy, but it was the trophy of the first event. And they don't list Dick Sears, but he's official records for 4th place. And now we're going to jump into Mr. Ron Sizemore. One last thing I just want to say about Dick. He just turned 96, you guys. He's as sharp as a tack.
You're ruining my love life.
Oh, that's never stopped you. Never, never, never. But just turned 96. I want to know what you eat, what you drink, what vitamins you're taking.
I'm 72.
Oh, 72, okay. So he just had his, his 75th anniversary of his 21st birthday. Okay, so now we're going to go to Ron Sizemore, 20-time winner of the Brook Street. And I would have bet anyone before I started putting this together that Jeff Booth had won more divisions or more times at the Brook Street than anyone, just hands down. However, Ron has won more than anyone. And we're going to talk about that in a second here. As you're going to see, so he first started, you know, back in the, I think it was 1960 or 61, Ron, that you won the first contest. Why don't you tell us about your first entries and then how you got bumped up to the higher division?
My first entry was in 1960. I entered the boys. I'd surfed San Onofre since 1958. I won the boys at San Onofre in 58. But I came into Laguna and surfed the Brook Street in 1960, and I did advance out of my heat in the boys. And I went up to Huntington Beach that same year, 60, And the surf was real small, and everybody was in close to shore underneath the pier. 5 or 6 boys in the heat. And the guy from San Diego, Dave Willingham, was the only one that advanced. 1961, I entered the boys, and the connection I have with Dick and Red Geyer was still doing the contest. And he suggested that I go into the men's. So I went into the men's, and I walked away with first place in 1961 in the men's. And Clint went after that. The Brooks was in the summertime, and Huntington was held in September 22nd, 23rd for quite a few years.
Hold on, time out, Ron. You're saying Huntington.
Huntington Beach.
Yeah, but it's not just Huntington Beach. It was the men's U.S. championships. Okay? It's just...
I'm shy about it.
Yeah.
It gained a better name, and I went up in 61 and walked away with first place in the what's called the West Coast Surfing Championships. And with that,
Yeah, and hold on, let me just put a little more color on it because you're shy. Ron won the contest shooting the pier backwards. And it was broadcast on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Is that true? That's what it looks, that's what it says.
I think this tail has grown legs and it's walking off in its own direction.
Perfect.
After the talk tonight, I'll show you the barnacle scars on my back. Where were we?
We were talking about how you got your first win at the Brook Street and how you got bumped up into the men's.
It was from Red Geyer putting me into the men's division. I would have still been in the boys without his suggestion. And I had gone out for track, and it still kind of puzzled me that here a guy is that hangs around the track field all day long, teaching people and everything. And I didn't really think that he knew the individual surfers that well, but he knew me well enough to say, okay, you're going from when I was 16, I would have been 17 in October, and you're going into the men's. And so that's how I ended up in the men's in my illustrious surfing career, if you could call it an illustrious career. I went over to Hawaii in 1962 for the Makaha contest. I was automatically seeded in the semifinals for that. And like Laguna Beach, it had a waiting period. And I went over, my mom took me over, took the neighbor over. We were over there for 2 weeks. Sent my brother Tracy and my sister came over. We were over for 3 weeks, and they still hadn't run the contest. And so she said, we're going back home so I could get back into school. And, you know, anyway, let's get back to Brook Street. I'm wandering.
That's okay. So we're going to jump to the next question. You competed in the 9th Annual Classic. The only time, I believe, the finals, it wasn't the whole event.
Oh, it was.
The whole event was held at Thalia Street. And Ron, tell us the story about you and Mickey Munoz battling it out for first place, because it's a great story.
Yeah, let's go back to, we came down to Brook Street in 63, and Thalia Street was firing. There were no waves at Brook Street. So everybody marched up the beach, and we sat there on the beach and ran the whole contest. You've got the list of judges. Phil Edwards was one of the judges. John Creed was one of the judges. All Hobie people. I was riding a warning board. They were made right up the canyon here. And I was a sander for them while I was still in high school. Surfers had a hard time getting employed in different places, so you ended up kind of working in the industry or whatever to begin with. I think Dick would agree with me there.
Yeah, totally.
And you have changed the complexion of surfers, you know, over the year and made them look more responsible and all that. I appreciate you for doing that.
Not that he looked bad.
But anyway, we went up to Thalia Street, had it up there. Evs was one of the judges. Evs was the official judge. Mickey and I came out of the water with everybody else, and they said, we haven't made a decision yet between myself and Mickey. You're going to have to go out on a mano-a-mano, hand in hand, go back out and surf and come back. And so we go out there, we surf, we come back in. Kev says, well, we still haven't made the decision. No, it gets better. It gets better. He pulls a coin out of his pocket, and I tell Mickey, we're going back and forth. I said, you call it, Mickey. I don't want to, I have more respect for him. I wasn't going to holler anything out. He goes heads, it comes up tails. So he goes, that's a flip to call for the flip. So the Heads was really a dancer when it came to it. I mean, he could just, Ginger Rogers would have had fun with it. But anyway, he goes, that's a flip to call for the flip. And again, I said, no, Mickey, you call it. So Mickey got the first place trophy, and I got the second place trophy. But it's probably the only time in Brook Street that they had a tie, and the Brook Street contest wasn't held at Brook Street, it was held at Dahlia Street.
Yeah, and just so you know, on official records that Ron Lutz handed me, it says Ron Sizemore first. Yeah. So,
Yes.
Thank you.
yes. So we're going to keep going here. Ron, as you can see, has been dubbed the Iron Man of Brook Street. And that's relating to the classic, and I can only assume, because you have competed in just about every decade, except for the missed Army years when you're in Vietnam, since it started, and that you have competed in every division, except for the women's, of course, even though he tried. But look at Ron, he's won 8 different divisions. Here he is coming out of the bodyboard. He's won senior men, senior masters, grandmasters, legends, paddle race, kneeboard, bodyboard, and body surf. And here is
those were nice trophies that year. There were a lot of neat individual trophies that came out from the individuals in Laguna that made them.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that as well.
Okay.
But we've always tried to have the t-shirts and the trophies made by local artists and not AYSO doorstopper type of trophies. But Ron, when you and I were talking the other day, and this kind of goes back to when surfers were seen as, sort of ruffians and degenerates, how the proceed when the contest was started, and you mentioned now that the awards ceremony are held in public places like Mozambique and,
Yeah, I mentioned to Brandy. After the contest, they'd hand you your trophy down on the beach, and then you'd go home. The water would clear from your sinuses. Now, after the contest, everybody goes home, they get cleaned up, and they're going out to the local venues. And there's people from out of town. What's that? That year we went to Mozambique. And there's people from out of town, and here's a bunch of surfers downstairs, all dressed up, having a good time. We're creating the wrong image. Everybody wants to be a surfer now.
Well, I do got to share one of my favorite memories at the Brook Street Classic is the year Ron would pull up in the morning with his van and slide the door open, and he'd be sitting out there in between all the divisions. He would surf in every division over the weekend. And in between, he would play his ukulele. And I remember standing there with Jeff Booth and his son Travis. Travis must have been, 8 years old or something, pretty young. But it was really cool to see, our sort of elder statesmen here passing on stories to Jeff and then getting to meet Travis. I think it might have even been his first contest. So that's what's a great memory that I have. So thank you, Ron.
You're welcome, Brandy.
When was the last time you surfed in the contest? Have you surfed in it in the last few years?
Not for a while. I can't really remember. I've come down to help, though.
Yeah.
I didn't get in the way or anything, and I enjoyed doing that with Ron Lutz. And going back to Ron Lutz, I used to enjoy going into the Parks and Rec department, into his office, and I'd tell Patty, the girl that worked the front desk down there, I'm going to visit Lutz for a couple of minutes. And he'd close the door, and behind the door, he had one of these small baskets that we could do paper wads and flip up into the basket. So that was kind of fun.
Well, of course, he never wanted to get rid of the basketball.
Yeah. No, he probably slept with it at night.
Well, thank you, Ron. We really appreciate all the years that you've been involved with us. Now, we're going to move on to Alisa Schwarzstein-Cairns, 18-time winner of the Brook Street. She also won the Side Chambers Award in 1978. And, when I was talking to Alisa the other day, I was trying to there were some ladies involved in the early days, the Calhoun sisters and Marge, their mom. And I was wondering if they were any sort of influence on Alisa, and she said no. And I'm assuming that's because you guys moved here at a later date. But you told me that you lived in the house that the Calhouns lived in on El Bosque.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a party house. But I'm assuming you got some of the good surf vibes and tapped into that to get your soak in surfing.
Yeah, I have a lot of kind of the ghosts of the Calhouns, I always kind of said. And going back to the very beginning, I was born in New York, and my dad was a lawyer in Manhattan, and my mom was an artist, and my dad had a business trip to California, and my mom heard like, oh, you got to go to Laguna Beach, it's, you know, art colony and all that. So came down, we stayed at the inn at Laguna, and that was just the first introduction. My mom just fell in love with it and said, you know, we're going to move out there. So my dad studied for the bar. We rented the house right at Brook Street that's on the poster on the middle floor. My dad was busy trying to study for the bar, and Sides lived downstairs. And
The Sides brothers, Todd, Steve.
they were they were having some good parties and just naked ladies on the deck. This was in like 73, 74.
Must have been hard for your dad to study.
And it was pretty hard. And then after that, we moved down to Thalia, the house there on the corner, and we were also on the middle floor. So 3 months in Laguna, introduction. That's the first time I ever saw surfing, skateboarding.
How old were you then?
Skateboarding, 9.
Okay.
So I was just like, this is the best thing ever. And I had a wacky pack collection, and Marielle Leeds gave me my first skateboard. I traded my collection for that. And then I always wanted to be on like the Hobie skateboard team because I was really into skateboarding. And then when I got into surfing, I went into the Hobie factory down there, and Danny Bronner, Mike Moore, and Terry Martin, they put me on the team, and that was really cool. But back to the houses, so they had this great 3 months in Laguna, and we went back to New York, packed up. My dad passed the bar, just hung up his shingle and came out to California. But he's like, I'm not raising my kids right on the beach. So my mom had fallen in love with this house on El Bosque. We'd go up to the high school. I was on the Sea Lions swim team. And we saw the house, and she was like, oh, we got to get that. You know, if a house like that ever goes on the market. So Bill Powell's called him up, said, hey, that house is going to go on the market. So they bought it over the phone. We'd never even seen it except for the outside of it. And then that was where it was the ghost of the Calhouns. And Cabs McKellen. And there was like a tiki bar in the downstairs, and everybody, I'm sure you guys probably went to the house on El Bosque and had some parties there. But, yeah, that kind of set off everything. I skateboarded around town, and I went to On Consignment and bought like a $10 surfboard, and I proceeded to think that I could just go out and surf. And
To think, so let's just put a little backstory. She thought she could surf. She started surfing at 9. She was a world amateur champion by 15.
Yeah, but at 9, I hit in the teeth and chipped my tooth, and had to go home and talk to my parents. They didn't know I went and bought this $10 surfboard and that I was even going surfing. So they were furious, and they didn't let me surf until I was 12. I was hanging down at Thalia, and I saw Chad Gibbs here, and Dave Gibbs, and all these guys were always down at Thalia, Steve Bunning and Don Crevier, and just the whole crew, White Gons and McMurray's, and so they were encouraging me. And then the lifeguards, Bill Brown, they were teaching a rec class at Doheny. So my parents said, okay, you can go with the Gibbses and, go be in this week-long course. And then they had a little contest, and we got a little balsa wood surfboard. And anyways, I won that, and then that was it. And then a friend was like, "Oh, they have the Brook Street contest in Laguna," and that was in junior high, coming into high school. So
she was called the Brook Street Brunette. So, Lisa, give us a little backstory. I love this photo here, the way you explained it to me the other day. So back in that time, you know, amateur surfing was flourishing with the NSSA, and your dad was legal counsel, I believe, or?
Well, in the very beginning, freshman year of high school, you know, I had started surfing, so the guys were like Steve Clark and Carlson's and whole crew were like, "We need a girl, you know, for the team." So anyways, went down at Salt Creek, and I ended up winning the NSSA high school championship. So I got invited to be in the nationals up in Huntington. Never been to Huntington in my life, and shooting the pier and all that stuff was a lot different than Laguna, but I ended up winning that contest, and I got on a national team. So suddenly my parents were like, "Oh, National Scholastic Surfing Association. Okay." Get behind it.
Good thing you won that Cy Chambers award.
And from then on, my dad, my parents were super supportive, but my dad got involved. Well, he was being a lawyer, he helped with the Skateboard Association, and then he got involved with the NSSA Incorporated, and later the ASP and all that. So,
well, I love this photo. That's Chuck Allen, right? Who started the NSSA. And this is Bud Lamas. He was considered like the best surfer in California at the time, right? One of the best in the world. And Alyssa's got them as an entourage, walking her down to the Brook Street to surf in her heat, right?
Yeah, because, you know, of course, you never know when the contest is going to be on. So we were hosting an event. My parents were always putting on, like, inviting Tom Curran used to stay at our house, and Martin Potter and Kim Merrick, and, you know, all kinds of people from all over the world would come and, you know, be welcome. So we were having an NSSA function there at the house, and then word got out Brook Street's on, so we just went down there for the contest.
Well, what an amazing bunch of people to have in your corner at the Brook Street contest. So here's a couple photos of Alisa winning back in '79. That was from her scrapbook, as you can see there.
There's Ron Lutz.
Yeah, there's Ron.
So we didn't have the big award ceremony. It was kind of like, here's your trophy, here's your, you know, whatever. But we did get a few prizes here and there, and it was really fun, and it kind of spurred me on. And when you're saying about the you know, is the Brook Street the oldest contest in the world, and I've competed many years in both the Bells contest and the East Coast Surfing Championships, and won that as well. But something so special about here in Laguna.
I was going to ask you, you know, why did the Brook Street remain so special to you even after you reached the heights of amateur and professional surfing? You know, you kept coming back and surfing in it and, you know, being part of it all the way up until now.
Yeah, it's like a community event. You know, everybody just gets so behind, like, everybody, you know, in town, and it's a lot of fun. At times it could be stressful, and I'm sure, you know, Jeff would say that, because it's like we might have a contest somewhere else. Oh, but they're going to be running the Brook Street.
Yes.
You know, you want to do that, and also it was just fun. Like, guys might be drunk judging.
That never happened.
Heckling up there, or, you know, whatever. So it wasn't super serious. So, and sometimes it was a little bit different than, you know, the contests that we were surfing in around the world. But it was just,
And it's always fun to, you know, perform in front of your home crowd and meet your friends.
And I mean, like, Brook Street is such a different wave too. And, you know, my husband, Ian Cairns, famous Australian surfer, he's here, and he's hated surfing out of Brook Street.
Thank you, Ian, for hating surfing out of Brook Street.
The only way we ever paddle in once.
Well,
Stop breaking at high tide, but no, I love Brook Street.
So, yeah, well, that's great. And look at this photo. This is the super heat. back in 1988, 89, you know, we used to take the winners of different divisions and put them all into what we call the super heat. And you know, there's Brian Bulkley on the left, that he must have won like the senior men's that year, and Alisa won the women's, and Chris Dornan won the boys. Jack probably won the men's. Jeff probably won. I don't know what he would have won that year, because but Sly Dog is not in this photo. He was probably the junior man. So, anyways, some of the best surfers to ever surf Brook Street, and Alisa beat them all that year. How did that feel, Alisa?
I remember this contest, and was glad that I was around, like, because it was in between tour and all that. But in all fairness, there was a couple of interferences that went down. So Jeff got an interference in it. I thought Tex Haynes was in this final too, but I guess it was in a different heat. But yeah.
Yeah, it might have been a different year. I think he was in it.
In another super.
In another super heat, because you were in quite a few super heats, but this is
this
one.
one was really cool to end up winning, and then seeing it now. I mean, early years, Jack and Chuck, you know, surfed a lot with down at Thalia when they first moved to Laguna, and so yeah, it was really special. And you know, Jeff grew up with him and took him surfing before, you know, and he couldn't drive yet. And then later on, the surfmobile was in the background of that other photo, but just getting to either be in the club with some of the kids and then go on to like coach their kids. I saw Dagwood here tonight, and you know, Dante was on the team, and then of course Jeff's kids, and now we've got, you know, we had Mike Carter and David Vermelia's here, and Jackson's dad, but there's a ton of everybody here.
Yeah. Well, we got to keep moving, and one last question for you. You've seen the women surfing sort of wax and wane over the years in Laguna, but it seems like it's in a really good place now. What's your thoughts on that today, where the girls surfing is?
I am so proud of where women's surfing is around the world, but here in Laguna, I mean, incredible talent there, and this is just a great photo, like, you know, young Tess, and Kayla coming up, and then Taylor, and I had gone to UCLA, and then it was really cool that Taylor went on to UCLA, but the girls surfing this year, unfortunately I didn't surf in it, but I was surfing off to the side and cheering on all the girls, and just so stoked that there's prize money for the first time, and hearing that was Tess's first prize check and all that, so it's incredible.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Alisa. Okay, next up, we got Jeff Booth. Probably like our Jerry Lopez of Laguna Beach surfing. Easy guy. Jeff's won the contest 17 times. He's the only 2-time winner of the Cy Chambers Award in 1981 and 83. And there's a shot of Jeff. So, Boothy, my question to you is, tell us about your early years. You know, in the 70s, surfing was very localized, kind of more soul surfing, anti-contest. And here you are in 1980 winning the minis on a radically airbrushed, Stussy-shaped new wave disco biscuit. Like, how did that happen? You're supposed to be like in a black beaver tail on a single fin.
That was like the year before. I think my first wetsuit was a Surfer House short john, and it was like a Velcro strap with a metal button. And after you wore it about 2 or 3 times, the button rusted out, so the thing would never snap and stay on. And every time you went under a wave, you got washed and just, you know. So back then, it was really hard to be a surfer in the winter. Wetsuits were a challenge, but actually, grew up surfing on single fins. So I was part of that generation that we surfed on single fins, and then twin fins happened. So I'm on a twin fin there, a Stussy twin fin. And then a couple years later, Simon Anderson came out with a thruster, which was 3 fins, a stabilizer fin that allowed you to, you know, it really kind of changed surfing. But I think this was my, I don't know, this might have been my 2nd year surfing the Brook Street. And I got my first Stussy twin fin. And me and my stepbrother, Chris, got real creative about doing air sprays. So we asked this guy to do a textured, like a grid deck on the deck. And I think the guy had to tape the whole board off and then take a razor blade and cut everything out to be able to create the grid deck. So I don't think he ever wanted to do one of my sprays ever again.
That thing would probably be worth a lot of money today.
Worth a lot of money to this day. But yeah, that was my first Stussy twin, and I had my Quicksilver board shorts and lived on Oak Street and surfed Brooks and Oak every day as much as I could.
You know, here's a shot of Jeff later, a couple of years later, that we used for the prize checks that we give out to the Pro-Am division. And, you know, Jeff, like Alisa, your surfing career ascended really rapidly from a young age. You know, U.S. amateur champion, you know, 2nd in the world titles, the world amateur titles a couple times. Why did the Brook Street remain special to you, even after you reached heights, you know, on the amateur and the professional surfing, and you always came back and surfed in the Brook Street?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, Brook Street was one of the most challenging waves. It was sort of the pinnacle of all surf breaks here in this town. So whenever the Brook Street would happen, it was really like, it was kind of like a gladiator pit. And when you're a young kid, you couldn't sit at the main peak and get waves. So when you got to surf the Brook Street, that was your opportunity to get a big wave in front of a crowd, you know, in big surf when it was exciting. So I remember my first year, you know, we hung out at Hakama and down at Thalia and under the Mr. Gibbs little palapa, and it was Mike McMurray, Colby Julian, and Sean Mahoney, and we all, like, as a group, walked to Brook Street, hung out in the ice plant, put our boards down, walked up, signed up, paid our $10 entry, surfed the Brooks, and we had an opportunity to catch the wave of our life in front of a big crowd, and that was super exciting to us. And I think that's always been the spirit about this wave of all of us putting on a performance. And, you know, especially the young kids, those divisions are the funnest because you get to watch the kids push their barriers and their boundaries and see a kid take off on an outside boiler and see a kid take off on the biggest wave of their life and eat crap, you know, and didn't always go down.
Well,
without charging.
Yeah, and the fact
Brook
that
Street.
they got to be out there, you know, the boys division and the girls division are, as you mentioned, are the most exciting, because when do you get to be a 13-year-old kid out of Brook Street with just 3 other guys in the water and it's pumping?
Yes, it's amazing.
And you got to go because the whole town's watching.
Absolutely.
You know?
No, it was really cool. And like this year, my neighbor, their son, Mason, last year he was just kind of getting into surfing, and then he got the bug, and then this year he wins the boys. And it was so cool. Like, that's my neighbor's kid. Like, I'm like bragging, that's my neighbor's kid, like basement kid charge. Look at it. It was cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. What's also super cool is, you know, we talked a little bit about, you know, all the success you had on the professional tour, but here you are, your Instagram is still Brook Street Surfer. So if you guys are on Instagram, you'll see that's Jeff's chosen handle, not a pipe master, number 2, top 10 in the world. It's Brook Street Surfer.
I like surfing Brooks. I know Ian doesn't, but I do.
You guys have never been at odds before, have you?
No. I always did what he told me to do. Ian was my coach in the NSSA, and I remember making the national team. We got to go to Hawaii and the North Shore in like '82, and I had my Stussy quiver, and I think my short board was 5'6". I had a 5'8" gun and a 6'4" gun, and sunset was 8 to 10 feet, and I was 12 years old, and he made me and Todd Holland paddle out at big sunset, and we were like paddling out crying. But what was worse would be to stay on the beach and not paddle out and get the retribution of Ian, so we paddled out.
The good old days.
We got smashed, but it was good.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite photos of the Brook Street. these guys are all some of the best surfers, and I think, I don't have the year, but one of the finals one year. And
I think this was 98.
yeah,
I'm guessing.
yeah, we'll have to look back and see if we can find the results from that year. But, you know, what I also wanted to ask you is, you know, for such a small town not known for world-class waves, you know, we've seen quite a few guys make a name for themselves over the years at Pipeline. You know, you, Steve Clark even, Mark Watkins, who's in this photo. You know, and then you had Mike Armstrong, Doug Brown, Brian Bulkley, to name a few. You know, your surfing translated very well to Pipeline also, and you made multiple finals there. Does the wave at Brook Street play any part or help you make that jump from your local spot to like conquering the fear of riding one of the world's deadliest waves?
Yeah, I do. I really do, because the way Brook Street breaks, you have first reef, second reef, third reef, and the reefs sort of, whatever they do, they triangulate the wave into this big peak. So when you're surfing Big Brook Street and the wave foams off second reef, it stacks up, and it's very similar to Pipeline, where you get these waves that just the horizon stacks and there's foam everywhere and there's chaos. And, you know, as a young kid, I remember living at Arch Beach Heights. My mom was in the Sawdust Festival, and she, you know, made things, baskets and pottery. I remember going, it was like 76, and I remember it was giant second reef, third reef, and she drops me off, and I have my little boogie board, and she looks at me, she says, "Don't go in the water today, it's too big." And she gave me $1 for lunch, and back then you could get a burger, fries, and a Coke at Jack in the Box for 96 cents. So $1 was your lunch. And I remember sitting in the ice pond at Brook Street watching Mike Armstrong surf, and I didn't know it was him, but I would watch him surf, and like I'd see him catch a wave, and then I'd be trying to find him in the lineup, and oh, there he goes again. Oh, now he's at his second reef, or now he's inside. And he had the very distinctive, graceful style, and you know, he turned out to be one of the best guys out at Pipeline with Jerry and Rory. And then, yeah,
he got second in the Pipe Masters one year.
Yes, no, I mean, in like early 70s, like 73, 74, and a lot of times he would be like the standout guy. He would be the guy to beat. And then Brian Bulkley and Doug Brown, those were some guys. And I also remember as a young kid seeing Mike Latronic on a yellow board. And Mike grew up in Blueberry Canyon. I remember seeing him on what would have been an outside boiler, and I thought it was a 20-foot face, and I saw him drop in on the wave, and he must have been 15. It was 4 times overhead, and I was just on the beach looking in absolute awe, like, how is that possible? Those are like moments that were indelible in my head, and then, yeah, getting to translate that to Hawaii, Pipeline, G-Land, Tavarua, but I think Brook Street, it definitely gets you comfortable sitting in position when a wave looks like it's going to take you out, and you have to sit there and wait and wait and wait and then go. That's what big wave surfing's about. So Brook Street's like a micro version of that. And I tell all the kids, like all these guys, and I'm sitting there getting them to surf the ledge, going to the certain takeoff spots. And the first one's the big boil, which Brooks is getting to know that, getting to dominate there. And then they go deeper than the big boil. Then they start going outside to this outer boils and outer takeoff spots. And it takes a lot of guts to take off on those waves.
Yeah, it does, and you're kind of the only one in the room that's been able to do it. So nice intestinal fortitude there, Boothie. Last question, we got to keep moving. How's it been watching and competing with your kids these last few years, Travis and Tess? Travis won the Pro-Am division in the 54th contest in 2017. And then Tess won the inaugural Women's Pro-Am division this year, first time we gave prize money to the women. What's that like as a dad?
Oh gosh, it's awesome. Like watching Tess win it this year was amazing, and she surfs Brooks really well. You know, she has that fortitude. Like she wants to go outside, go out the back, get a bomb. Like she wants to take off on a big wave.
I wonder where she got that from.
That's exciting. So she surfed great this year. She was dominant and put on a great performance, so that was really fun. And then surfing with Travis, like we got to surf a couple heats. We surfed the pro final together. One of the years Ryo won it for the first time. Trav got second. I got dead last, but it was just fun to be in the water, the drama, and kind of, trying to partner up with your kid. trying to dominate a little bit.
How did it go at the dinner table that night?
He bought dinner. But no, it was really fun. I mean, it's what a great experience to be a parent and to watch your kids start surfing better than you. It's exciting. And it's how it should be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Jeff. Next up, this is kind of like the boys division at the contest, Brooks. First question, and everyone's probably curious, were you named after the surf break?
A lot of people think I was named after the Brook Street contest or just Brook Street itself. I wasn't, just to be clear, but
I'm sure your dad was pushing for that,
yeah,
though.
my dad was definitely pushing for it. My mom, or at least she tells me, she was always like, yeah, I love the name Brooks, and I just think it's a really good name. My dad just...
Your dad was like, yeah, I'm on board.
Totally. Yeah, it's his favorite spot to surf, so I think it was just a great name.
All right, well, you know, some of us will just say you're named after the break. Maybe after like 20 victories, you know, when you're these guys' age up here, you'll be like, yep, I was named after the break. So compared to the rest of the panel, you know, you're in your early years of competing in the Brook Street. What's been your favorite thing about being in the contest so far?
Well, I mean, I think my favorite thing about being in the contest is just like the camaraderie with all my friends, especially these guys up here. Just hanging around with all of them on the beach after surfing my heat. I think it's really fun. And yeah, I think when you're out in the water, just talking with them while everyone's watching you, you know, all the pressure's on. It's just kind of fun. That's kind of what makes the Brook Street for me.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. Especially when you can have bragging rights over your buddies if you beat them for the whole year. Any special memories from competing or just surfing at Brook Street?
I mean, I don't have too many memories in the contest yet. You know,
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't have it one year and you weren't able to compete, so you've only done, I think, 2 or 3 events, right?
Right, but I mean, those 2 to 3 events have been super fun, but I think just Brook Street in general, not the contest. Jeff has obviously been a big part in helping me surf Brook Street. I mean, he's taught me pretty much everything I know, everywhere to sit. I mean, it's just so nice to have him in my life, you know. And then also Alisa helps me when I'm in doing the surf team practices. It's super fun just to like get help from both of them and kind of be guided through my surfing journey. It's nice.
Well, you live just up the street from the booth. Do you have your mom make cookies and run them down and put them on the doorstep?
I probably should.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea if you want to get a few more waves out at the peak.
I'm on it.
Okay, you get it, Kelly. No nuts, please. There's Brooks when he got second a couple years ago in 2000 and what was it? 22, I think. 2022. A little fun fact. So there's Brooks again, second place boys at the 57th annual in 2023. And then here's Brooks accepting the Cy Chambers Award that same year. I have maybe the date wrong there. I have you down for 2022 or 2023. Either way. A little fun fact is you and your dad are the only father-son duo who have won the Cy Chambers Award, with your dad Mike winning it at the 32nd annual in 1986. And you at the 56th in 2022. How does that feel? Share that with your dad.
Well, I mean, another fun fact, I had no clue until you told my dad over texting, but I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, yeah. I honestly had no clue he won the trophy until there was one time I was like wandering around the house. I walked into the closet and I just saw it kind of sitting back there, and I was like,
Mike, you keep your Cy Chambers Award in the closet? Oh, it's supposed to be on the mantelpiece.
it should have.
Okay.
Yeah, but I asked him about it. He was like, oh yeah, I won the Cy Chambers Award. I was like, cool.
Well, I hope you don't keep your trophy in the closet there, Brooks.
Oh, I definitely won't.
Okay. Well, with that, we got to keep moving on, and we still have some stuff to cover. So thank you, Brooks. Do you have any little closing remarks you want to add?
I just can't wait to surf the Brook Street.
All right, no sleep for Brook Street. Thank you. That's going to conclude our panel discussion, and we're going to try to get through this real quick. Some of the art that has been involved with the contest over the years, it's been a big mission of mine since I've been involved to have our local artists either design the t-shirts and also the trophies. And, these are just some things that have been passed down. I don't know if anyone knows the artist from this year in 1976, Leon Bernard. I'd love to, just get a hold of any of these guys. The Collector's Choice Gallery, that thing's not around. You can't find anything about either of these online. And just a quick note, you're going to see, a lot of these trophies at this time were funded by a guy named Bruce Hopping and the Kalos Kagathis Foundation. He was a big supporter of the Brook Street. And on the left there, you're going to see an artist named Terry Lamb, and I believe Terry worked a lot in the surf industry over the years, and he currently lives in Hawaii, but he might be a victim of some orange sunshine and hard to sort of get a hold of and talk with. So, but if anyone knows Terry, let's try to find him and get some backstories on his posters here. Kurt Millett, many of you guys might know, he's a jeweler, Sawdust, and he's got a store, I think, still over by Thalia. That was the 78th poster. This one here in 88, 89, so there was no contest in 88 because there was no waves, so they had to go reprint the shirts and put the 89 on the side there. Needless to say, no dates have ever been put on the shirts again the year since that time. That artist is unknown, and if anyone knows who did that artist or art, let us know. This art was done by Jack Denny in the early 90s. To the left there, the first Tom Chambers Award is Stephen Chu. He did that for the 46th annual in 2024. On the right here was done by Wolfgang Block for the 47th annual in 2025. We have Walter Beasley. I think Walter's here. Did the 49th annual in 2010. I don't know if Marcel Mead's here, but Marcel did the 50th in 2013. To the left here, we have Pat Tobin. Many guys probably remember Pat. Great surfer. So that was a Pat Tobin piece for the 52nd annual in 2015. Sean Stussy did this design for the 55th annual in 2018 using one of Dick Metz's photos from the first event. I thought that was a really cool tie-in. Couple more recent ones. Kai Garnhausen, this one down here at the bottom, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but pointillism. Very intricate. You gotta be very that's all pencil, pen dots. That was in 56th annual in 2022. Larry Stewart, if you guys have been following Larry's art career, he's doing really well in sort of the bigger art world. He did the 57th annual. I liked his sort of play on the Brook Street with the Bull Street Surfing Classic. And then last year, this was a Bill Ogden design that we used. We had some really cool artists. I don't know if you guys, I'm learning a lot of this history just by researching it, but this guy on the left, his name was Roger Bandy Banter. Juan, you got...
They're kind of leaving one area. off the books. It was kind of a controversial era from the 60s to the 70s. And Joey Cabell was a big factor in town and a great surfer. And he went on to win the contest at Sunset Beach. And he was the guy to beat. And Billy Hamilton and I, we used to hang around and surf with Corky Smith. And Brook Street was a big deal. And Ron was a big influence of us in those contests in the 60s and the 70s. And I know it was kind of a controversial era there. There was a lot of transitioning through different lifestyles and things, but that was pretty famous. And Roger lived up Bluebird and was a famous artist. And Cabell was, well, I mean, he's one of the most famous watermen ever. And he lived in Laguna. And, you know, we surfed Faber Street, low tide, in the middle there, and then Brook Street on the south swell. And we gather bottles and go up to the Mexican restaurant and get a bean plate. And we basically lived there at Oak Street. And we were lucky if Cabell or Tommy Lee or the Patterson brothers or any of those guys from Hawaii come out and surf with us. And we were really stoked, but the big guys were Cabell. And he won a bunch of contests in that era. And, you know, Shard House, I mean, that was a real important era. And just kind of left that. All our trophies were basketball players on a lot of the lack.
Yeah.
That's really fun. We had tennis shoes on them and shorts. But in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of good surfing. We had a lot of good sized Brook Street.
Yeah, well, if you look at the history, there was plenty of really great surfers, and we'll have a little quote here at the end, but you know.
Just recently passed away.
Yeah, so this guy Roger, you know, he made these first place trophies, and from what I've learned, he studied under John Stokesbury, from what I know, and he.
Teacher in the Canyon and at college.
Yeah, and he, from what I know, was a cobbler, and what I was told is he used to make shoes, and he makes shoes for all the biggest rock stars of the world in the late 60s, including Jimi Hendrix. Yeah.
Sisters, everybody came to town. It was a real transitional era in Laguna, and a lot was going on, but there was some great surfing.
And Alisa, I believe you won one of these trophies. Is that correct? You on the year that this happened. You were listed as a winner, and they only gave those to 10 first place winners, and there's only one in existence, and it was the one Bruce Hopping kept. So we're going to keep going because we're running out of time. Randy Morgan designed these trophies that we saw earlier. He also designed this one here, which was actually really cool. It's like almost like a resin block type of trophy for the 58th annual in 2018. Sean Brown, I think Sean Brown's back there. Sean made these with his photography for the trophies of the 52nd, 53rd, and 54th annual. And then most recently we had Robert Jones, another ceramicist. He's made trophies for 3 years. This last year he made surfboard fins. And every place, so if you got a red one, you know you won the contest. I got a yellow one, that means I got 4. But it's still okay, stoked. And then he made these trophies here in 2023. And then we're gonna kind of close it out with this quote. And going back to what Juan was saying, you know, about all the greats, the Cabells and Billy Hamilton, and even Corky Carroll surfed in the Brook Street one year. But Mickey Munoz, there's a lot of names, but if you win the Brook Street, you're a world-class surfer, and Howard Chaplosa. And so, before we open it up to the Q&A, if you guys enjoyed tonight's program and our town's history, please support the Laguna Beach Historical Society. Become a member. You know, this is a way to help support it. They want to remodel the bungalow, I believe. So a donation would be great. And anything else, Scott, on closing?
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for coming, and especially our wonderful panel. Fab, let's give a hand for the panel. I can honestly say I was talking to Brandy, and this is the vibe of the tribe right here. This is, as Arnold Hanley said, it takes a village to make a village. And this room is just full of love and admiration for these guys and all of surfing and the industry that is so important, I think, to our youth today. And I want to thank again everybody here, and especially the Historical Society, which I've embraced. And I urge you, if you have a packet in front of you, to think about a donation. That's my total pitch line. The Historical Society is here for you, and programs like this are amazing. Would you not agree? Yeah. I want to call out just a few people that we have in the audience that are amazing citizens of Laguna, statesmen, and locals. Judge Dave Carter is here. Mark Christie. We have Rudy, who cuts my hair. Karen LaGrue, the Vice President of the Historical. Howard Hills on the school board. We have so many people that I don't have time to mention them all. But Brandy, I want to commend you for putting this together. And I think the room needs to give love on Brandy right now. Well, Brandy turned to me and he said, you know, Scott, I want to quote what my grandfather said. He said, well, Debbie said this, Debbie Faber.
My dad said it to me.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
And my axiom is, common sense is not that common. And that's a courtesy of Mark Twain. But again, I wanted to say thank you. And if there is any questions you would like to answer or ask the panel, I'd be happy to start with Mark Christie. Yeah.
So it's not really a question, but while we're in a group with a 96-year-old guy, I just want to say Surfing Heritage is coming to Laguna. It's going to be mind-blowing. You have no idea what's coming. And Surfing Heritage does not exist without Dick Metz. And what's coming would not exist without the executive director that this place has been waiting for its entire existence, Jeff Alter. That's all I got.
And without your help also.
Yes, a fabulous job on the ranch. I might add that Ben Brown's is no longer at the ranch. It's just a fabulous, fabulous location now and great golf course. Do you have any other questions of the panelists? Well, I have a question.
I think, Chad, did you raise your hand?
Okay, here.
Yeah, Chad Gibbs in the back.
Hi, I'm Chad Gibbs. I have a radio show on KXFM, Fridays 3 o'clock on the rocks. And I just want to say something about the Brook Street, man. When you wake up that morning and it's on, there's a special tingle. There's a nervousness that comes over all of us, like, wow, the Brook Street is on. And it's kind of creepy. It's a little scary, but you know you got to stand up and you got to participate and do your part. My dad built the Palapa in 1970 down at Thalia Street at Hakama. And when I'd sit under that Palapa, I would see the legends surfing Second Reef. Those were like Parlett. Those were Corky Smith. Those were Dave Wycon. Bing Boca, who's in the crowd tonight. Like Dave and Bing to stand up, they were participants in the first Brook Street surfing contest back in 1955.
Stand up, guys. All right.
gurus. I was a Grom, and you know, back then, Groms didn't surf second reef. Like, you had to earn your rights, and you had to like wait for your time. And I went out there and I paddled out finally in probably like 1978. I was probably like 13, 14 years old, and there they were as Parlette. It was, you know, Corky Smith, and they're like, hey, Jack, here's where you want to sit. Here's where you want to like be and do your thing, and like here's how you do it. And it wasn't just every Grom. Now it's like you go out there and it's like a bunch of 10-year-olds. But back then it was a rite of passage to be able to surf second reef Brook Street and to compete in the contest. And I think Sly Dog's the only guy to catch 2 second reefers in one heat. I've never caught a second reefer. I didn't gamble on the heat, but I did participate in the Brook Street contest thanks to Brandy. I participate, otherwise I'd probably sleep in. But I did win in the 50-year and over 1 year, and finally got a first place trophy because I got so many second place trophies because Jack Denny, Chuck's here tonight, was my age, and Mike Parsons was my age. So a lot of second place trophies, but finally got a first place trophy when I was 50. Everybody, Brook Street Classic, epic. Thanks, Brandy, for keeping the legend going. Thanks to the legends for being here.
Awesome. You have any other questions? Yes.
We got one from Wave.
Hi, everybody. I heard his name mentioned a couple times, excuse me, and I might have missed it, but I'd like to just mention Corky Smith. He was a dear friend of many of us, and I just want to make sure he's remembered. Everybody who doesn't know him, ask somebody else for a story of Corky. I've never heard one that didn't have me bent over afterwards, you know. He was just a character, and he was beloved in my heart, and in the Sound Spectrum's heart, and throughout Laguna. So here's to Corky.
I want to add something. I bought my first home when I was 17 with Steve Chambers, and I grew up with the Chambers family, both Tom, Cy, Steve, Andy, and Chris. And Steve left us early in life. Cy was tragic, and Tommy was, again. So, in memorandum, as you so aptly put, to Corky, I'd like to just look up above and think of Steve, Cy, and Tom Chambers, who are with us tonight. And that's the vibe of the tribe that I'm talking about.
So, Brandy, you're amazing working with you and so organized. I grew up in Laguna, but I've never known this much about Brooks or even gone to it. So there's so much history in this town, and this is so fun for somebody who knows nothing. Alisa is my age, so I hung out a little bit with her and Amy in, 6th grade or something. But another big one was Doug Parsons, right?
Mike Parsons.
Mike Parsons. Did he ever surf Brook Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did it when he was more younger. If you look at the results, he, I think, won the boys and maybe the junior men's, and then
Big wave.
kind of, I think kind of moved on and started going, NSSA and other events, and didn't really surf in the Brook Street as much after high school.
He moved out of town.
Yeah, he also moved to San Clemente, after high school, I believe.
And that leads me to my second question. With traditions, they're always challenged. Like, why can't I be in this? I don't live in, has it ever been challenged at
Yes.
non-locals? And what happened? And
They were kicked out.
That's the story.
Well, first and foremost, in a small town like Laguna, you pretty much know who's a local and who's not, who lives here. I remember one year with Ron Lutz, we had 2 guys come infiltrate the contest from Long Beach, and they signed up and they were like getting ready to go out, and I'm like, who are these guys? And Ron's like, I don't know, they signed up. And then Ron went up to him and was like, can I see your IDs? And they're like, we're from Long Beach. We just thought the waves looked good out there, so we wanted to surf. And he's like, It's only open to Laguna locals, so they didn't paddle out and surf.
There have been a few that snuck in. I know there have been a few that have snuck in, and I know there was one girl one year when I was pretty young that was kind of bummed because she lived in like Encinitas or something.
I'm sure you still beat her. Yeah, it probably has happened a few times over the years. So, yeah.
I have Howard Hills here.
Oh, hey, Howard.
School board member.
Hey, Brandy, thanks. I just wanted to thank Roger Kempler for everything he's done with the Historical Society. And I also wanted to say to Alisa that, you know, I listened to your story, and you are in women's surfing the equivalent to what Jackie Robinson was baseball and Jim Thorpe was. I mean, you are a historical figure, and it really underscores it. I mean, we were sitting there with Ron and Dick and everybody, and we got Elizabeth Boyd over here, whose husband, Duke Boyd, started the surfwear industry. I can remember driving down Forest Avenue and seeing the Hang 10 sign at Stuart Avis and going there and buying my first Hang 10 clothes. But I just want to say that, you know, we know the names of the great artists in the history of Laguna Beach. And we have this culture here that's around the art festival and everything else. What I saw here tonight is the equivalent of a tradition and a legacy in this town that's the core of this town, that's in every way equivalent to the whole art tradition and the art culture. And we should be integrating it in the curriculum with our schools. I was at the school board meeting last week, and I talked about how great our football team is doing right now. But I also said you should have seen the kids from Laguna Beach schools down there at that surf contest. And I said that on the record in the school board meeting. So I just want to say, with what Mark Christie is doing with his heritage coming in, we should be integrating that with the schools, and we should be building up this tradition and keep it alive, just like the art colony is being kept alive.
Thank you, Howard. Good point. I think Juan had a question.
Well, there was a lot of great surfing going on in there was a lot of great surfing going on in the late 60s and 70s. But a lot of surfers were forced with the Vietnam War situation. So you go to college and you get more money. We all went to Hawaii at that time, me and Billy Hamilton and a bunch of us. But the 60s and 70s with Joey Cabell, I mean, that guy was world class. And Corky was the guy that brought us out to Brook Street when we were kids. And Corky surfed with us, and he was the funniest guy because he had this attitude, and we all laughed. But guys like that would take us out in those days. Corky Smith at Brook Street was a big deal. Surfing against him in the Brook Street contest was a big deal. And so there was a lot of great surfers. But again, with the war and stuff, people went scattered. And that's like a history from the late 60s through the 70s. And Alisa's era. You know, and then we were in the era with the war changed shape. It was a big transition. And then girls did really well with surfing. Here you go.
Juan Shelton, everybody, he was the champion in 1966.
Yeah. Any other questions? We got about 8 minutes left in the room before they shut their doors. Oh, Walter Diesele. Oh, and then Jason Watson.
Sorry, I kind of sizzled out on the contest this year.
That's all right.
This year, but this is what happened. We're talking about Corky, and we put Corky's ashes out at Third Reef. We put him out there, and it was, you know, and there was no waves, but this swell that came in
Use the microphone.
from the hurricane, it came. It was kind of missing second reef, and when I was going out in my heat, I was paddling out, and I heard Dagwood start yelling, "There's a big set outside," and I'm paddling, and I'm trying to get out, and this wave is coming off Third Reef. It was foaming off Third Reef, and we can keep our name. I thought I could punch through it, and I rolled it, and the thing sucked me down, and it just took me down to the bottom, and I'm just going, whoa, this is a Corky wave. You know, because we put him out there, and I swear I was thinking of Corky while I was underwater trying to get to come up. I couldn't come up, I was pinned down. And as soon as I was pinned down, I came up, and I just got a little bit of air, and the other one was coming right down on me, and I'm going, okay, this is it. I'm gonna pass out, you know. And so it held me down again, and then I came up, and my board was right there. I grabbed it, and they just washed me up on the beach, on the rocks. My foot, I'm sitting on the rocks, and Brandy comes walking out of the water, and he's going, "Are you going to go out?" And I'm just going, I was so out of it, I just didn't even know, you know, I was where. So I kind of let everybody down, you know. I wanted to.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, Walter.
So next year I'll do it again.
We're glad you're getting it in, Walter. Okay, we got Jason Watson over there's got a question.
All right, mine will be pretty quick. I want to commend Brooks Carter for being up there today. Public speaking isn't easy to do, and
yeah,
did a great job tonight. And my question is for you. You had mentioned, you know, how much respect you have for Mr. Jeff Booth, showing you all the boils and takeoffs at Brook Street. But is there any other guy in your life that might have showed you a few things out at the Brook Street?
Hold on.
Oh, he doesn't have a mic. Sorry about that, Brooks.
I mean, maybe a little bit.
Who's that?
Every here and there.
Who's the person?
Last name Carter.
There we go. His dad. I can remember you getting shown a lot of things here by this guy, but anyways, I just wanted to make that happen. Good job today.
I think you want me to keep him out of the speech.
All right, anybody else have any questions for the panelists?
Good point, Jay.
Okay, any other questions? I just want to give Judge Carter a thank you and props for the many times you came by Laguna Serpents Bar when I was working with Mike and brought us milkshakes and Jack in the Box.
And to take that segue further, I think it's only fair that the judge picks we have 3 tickets that are going to be the winner of a poster that's signed by each one of our legendary, iconic surf panel. And the judge is going to pick the first number. I'll announce that right now. Let's see. The winner is, oh shoot, who has good eyes?
Brooks.
What? You can't?
Read it. Read it.
Brooks can read it.
What does it say, Judge?
What is it, you?
It's who? Carter? Yeah, Carter! Okay, by default, he already has a poster. So, winner, chicken dinner. You don't need 2 of them. We need to get these out. Okay? Drum roll, please.
It's hard to jam. So much history.
Is there no name?
Well, I was going to talk to Chris Morrow. He left. But it'd be
Drum
great.
roll, please. Winner, chicken dinner. Ryan Gear. Yeah, baby. We're going to do 3 of these. Ryan Gear, I have your poster right over there underneath the Brandy. Will you grab the poster? Roger's going to hand it to you. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Melissa Booth.
That's just
Would we
like.
have one? Okay.
Yeah. Well, keep trying. Right?
Sure.
Mark
Mark McCrae.
He left.
Okay, one more.
Mark. Oh, Mark.
Mark McCrae. Mark McCrae.
Yeah, he's right there. He's right there. Right there in the.
Okay, let's get Mark in here. The final winner, Wolf Hankey. Wolf Hankey. Thank you, Judge. Brandy, I think that wraps it up.
Yes, I would agree. It's late and everyone's looking a little tired. So thank you everyone for coming. Thanks panelists. We'll see you next year. No sleep till Brook Street.
Awesome.